Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jesse Tolman. I'm the Market Sales Manager for Sunbelt Rentals. We are today's sponsor for the Evaluating Safety Software Tools, Finding the Right Fit for today's session. So your speakers today are Jordan Taylor, Health and Safety Manager for Lundy Construction, and Tyler Sharoni, the Solutions Delivery Manager for PCL.
Good morning, everybody. Did they run a flex and stretch program this morning? No? It was all tight? Yes? Okay. Yes. No, I was going to pick one. Okay, so Tyler Sharoni, Solution Delivery Manager for PCL. That's basically like your technical project manager. I get to work with some cool stuff. One of them being HammerTech, and then Jordan Taylor, obviously Corefix. So we're just going to talk a little bit about our experiences, the technology. So I'll go, and then Jordan will provide his presentation, a little bit of a demo of Corefix, and then answer any questions you might have. It's a smaller group, so if anyone has any questions while we're chatting, please feel free. I don't mind having a discussion.
There's two mics in the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty quiet here too, so pretty small group. Okay, so I'm going to talk about where we started as an organization and why we needed change. Why did we get HammerTech? We had an internal system ourselves, so obviously there was some sort of change that needed to occur. What we looked for in a product, and then why HammerTech, some of our key features. I won't go into great depth, but we can definitely ask any questions if you have any in regards to some of those key features. And then what we learned as an organization and what we would do again. So if any of you have any of these issues, they might seem pretty familiar. As an organization, we had system fragmentation. So essentially we had a bunch of tools supporting a lot of these processes, inspections, PSIs, FLRAs, etc., being done in different technologies and different processes. We had collaboration barriers. So we didn't really have the capability of working with our trade partners through a digital space, them uploading documentation, us approving, etc. And we needed a modernization of our legacy system. So we had a system that was about 15 years old. And we didn't really improve it much. It did a really good job of what we were trying to accomplish, inspections, incidents, and capturing some of that data. But as we started building out a program with additional permits, etc., the technology didn't really evolve with it. So we started evaluating products and how we could essentially modernize our system. So no offline capabilities, which is pretty important, especially when we have remote work sites, etc. And then when we were looking at our legacy system, it required a costly and time-consuming overhaul. So this was kind of what led us to taking a look at some third parties rather than building internally. So, and it's funny because I was working with Jordan, we just met. I'm from Edmonton and I flew out here. And we started sort of talking about some of the same issues we had with the technologies and when we started buying these third parties. A lot of things overlapped, right? So we had a lot of disconnected processes, inspections, safety meetings, PTPs being done, but they're being done differently across our projects and our districts. One's paper, one's with an app, etc. If you take a look at my fragmented technology, this was in part of sort of an analysis I did with the tools and processes we were doing with some of our disparate processes, right? So we take a look at safety requirements or bulletins or permits. You'll see different applications that were being used. This is a part of the tech stack, and it's quite loaded, right? So we were looking to sort of bring down that tech stack into a more manageable, unified system. Right, and that kind of led us for our vision, which was having a unified platform. Rather than a bunch of disparate information and a segregated or separate database that worked in silos, we wanted an intuitive tool that supported all aspects of our safety program. We have a pretty healthy, robust safety program, and how can we facilitate that within the technology. And then with our growing project sites and all of the different subcontractors that we work with and our partners, we wanted a sort of streamlined way of communicating, data sharing, and collaborating with them. There's a ton of information that they submit to us, so how do we improve these workflows through the approval process? And then adaptable and flexible. Like I was saying, we had an old system that didn't really evolve with us, so we wanted to partner with a technology that we were able to update and change when we needed to. If there's a policy or procedure that changed, how do we make those changes within the system so that they mirror each other? So that was essentially our vision for looking at another technology. And then we started evaluating technology. We know what we didn't want, right? So I'm not gonna paint a picture of all the different technologies we just evaluated, because I don't want to say these are the pros and cons against these technologies, especially if they're in the audience. I want them coming at me later on. Regardless, we knew what we didn't want, right? So process inefficiencies, we were taking a look at, is it easy to create an incident? What does that investigation lifecycle look like? At PCL, we like to be notified when things happen on a project site. Are those workflows good? Like, are we people being notified when an incident occurs, et cetera? Excessive customization required. We didn't want to rebuild our system. We just wanted a system that was kind of plug and play. We had made some configurations to address the forms to make them look like PCLs, et cetera. And then if it is an administrative burden, like how many modules exist? Are we putting this into the hand of our project admins and them sweating, like every day sucks because I have to do all this work in the system? So the idea was to make it efficient. Okay. System limitations, what kind of features they had. We knew what our program was, so we knew what kind of features we wanted. Reporting is quite important to us, so we took a look at the reporting capabilities. And then the notification workflows, because again, that is important. We want to know what's happening on our project sites. People on the project site want to know what's happening on the project site, right? And then is it scalable? We have a large company, so when we were taking a look at organizations, we wanted to know that they could scale across our operation, and then that sort of market share. Are they being used by other companies? One thing I did was I reached out to other companies and asked them, hey, how is this product working within your operation? And I got some pretty good feedback, right? So just identifying use cases within those other organizations that are using it. So always reach out. That's where that sort of networking comes into play. And then the user experience gaps, right? So is it a complex user interface? If you don't understand it when you start looking at it for the first time and take a couple of minutes to sort of digest it, that's probably just going to be difficult. This helped us through our evaluation process. So that's kind of like defining the requirements. We knew we want modern workflows. We knew we wanted mobile and offline. We knew we wanted collaboration, scalability, et cetera, which sort of led us to our evaluation and leading solutions. That's hands-on demos, right? You want to make sure you're partnering with them, doing some hands-on demos. You do some capability reviews, reference checks, and then total cost of ownership. I think that total cost of ownership, just a partnership, and the people that buy into the system and the product themselves. Hammercheck, as an example, is incredibly important. That's that partnership, right? And then compare and assess. So functionality fit, ease of use, implementation, support, long-term roadmap. I'd say long-term roadmap is pretty important. It'll give you some of the under-the-hood stuff from an organization or a company. We want to know that when we're evolving, so are they. That's one of the reasons why we want to buy a product, is that they're innovating, right? And it takes some of the cost off of us to do that, and that it's within the organization that we're procuring or partnering with that they're doing. So if they have a long-term roadmap, it's probably a pretty healthy organization and a pretty good plan that they have. Which made us somewhat confident in our decision to procure Hammercheck or purchase Hammercheck as our safety solution. Some of the takeaways, obviously, is others fell short. Was that complete functionality, define your requirements and start reviewing, do those test cases, limited collaboration, field usability, and then better long-term value. That partnership is incredibly important. Working with an organization, you really want to make sure that you're going to be working with them for the next decade if you can. Hammercheck for the win, right? So again, based off of the criteria, it helped us define what we wanted and the system we wanted, right? So it configured our existing safety processes. We have a pretty robust safety program. I already mentioned that. We know what we want from inspections, incidents, et cetera. We want a technology to mirror that. I'd suggest that our program and your programs should be driving the technology, right? Obviously, they can provide insights into the what are some best cases or some best practices that other organizations are using. But if you have a good safety program that's working for you, that's what should be driving the technology. And then a platform that enables subcontractors to submit documents. We'll talk a little bit about the key features, but essentially we can nominate our trade representatives within the system. That's what they call in Hammercheck, to submit documents, and then we essentially approve, submit back. It makes our sort of administrative burden and collaboration much easier. And then offline capable mobile app, so their inspection and their FLRAs, I believe that's the field level risk assessment. Everyone has different names. You can open up the app and do those offline, right? So that was exactly what we wanted. And then built-in dashboards and open APIs to integrate with our current reporting stack. So we have a ton of reporting, and we knew that we didn't want to just leverage Hammerchecks, and that was incredibly important to us. Jim Barry, he's our former Vice President, Health and Safety, was a staunch believer in Hammercheck and was one of the main drivers behind purchasing FPCO. We did some real life piloting, and that was one of our lessons learned, and I'll talk about that later on. So you do want to pilot on real projects, not test data. You want real life examples and use cases, do it on a project. Areas of improvement that we found was reduced administrative burden, because they were able to directly enter information into the system. It wasn't them submitting a paper stack and us just holding it into the site trailer and then documenting it. It was them putting it directly into the system, us approving it, and then having it as a record for within the system and a data point. And then consolidating tools. It had basically all of the modules we wanted, right? So we're starting to reduce our tech stack, reduce some of those third-party costs. And then mobility, again, we wanted to make sure that we can complete inspections relatively simply, as well as our PSIs, and then that review and approval. Just a reduction in the general approval time, and then those workflows to facilitate that, right? Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Hammercheck. There's a ton here. I'm not going to go into great detail about all of the modules they have. Mind you, when we started rolling this out, we didn't roll out all the modules at once. We rolled out modules that replicated our old system, so inspections, incidents, etc., and then we slowly started rolling out additional modules so that the burden wasn't so significant on that change. Just a part of that change management strategy that we developed. We didn't want to overflood our individuals with information, so we sort of slowly released a lot of these like more important core workflows like the inspections and incidents, etc. So I've categorized some of these key features, talking about onboarding. This was important to us, especially since we wanted to start tracking more worker information. We were losing a lot of data insights on our worker profiles. So we're able to centralize our project data. So we have a project and we have all the information associated with that worker and that project, which we can also scale up to our districts and then our organization. So all that information is captured. The worker information, we're able to detail worker information significantly more than we previously were. So we had associated projects, the licenses and certifications that they can upload when they go in to take the orientation. They can upload all their information, what inspections attended, basically that 360 view of the worker, which is pretty important to us. And then orientations and inductions. We're able to conduct orientations through Hammercheck at a corporate level, district level, and project level. So if you have 3 different levels, you're able to put that within the system. So that was a huge thing for us to be able to do that. And we started doing that around when COVID occurred. We had to essentially find a way to not do them in person. So we started doing digitally. Okay, pre-construction, right? So safety plans, JHAs, and safety data sheets. This is where it's being more consolidated. Our trades are submitting information to us, and we're just reviewing and approving and rejecting if need be. So subcontractors can submit their safety plans, and then as well as their JHAs, so we can take a look at the hazards they've identified for the scopes of work, and if it doesn't meet our what we expect out of it, we can reject it and go through the work cycle again, right, to make sure that it's approved in a manner that we expect. And then the safety data sheets. This is pretty interesting. We were previously using, and still sort of using MSDS Online. I think it's called eBinder now, but sort of transitioning into the safety data sheets. Subs can upload, manage, and share their SDSs. I believe Hammercheck is starting to roll out an AI feature where they basically just upload their SDS and all the metadata associated with that is automatically entered into the system, so they don't have to enter anything. So some pretty cool stuff, and kind of talks about some of the innovation we're looking for when we partner with an organization. Key features, coordination, safety meetings, FLRA, BTPs, and permits. So again, a lot of really cool features here. I won't go into everything. Last time I did a demo on just the permits, it took me an hour, because there's a ton of cool stuff you can do with it. For safety meetings, you can do your safety meetings. You can generate a QR code. If you have like 100 people who are in attendance, they can scan it, sign into the meeting, and you've got their attendance associated with that meeting. It's pretty cool features and functionality that there is. FLRA, PTPs, a bunch of different names for it, but That's our for the low risk assessments. We can record daily tasks along with our hazards and controls. You can do some mapping, so the workflow is a bit easier. You identify a task, and then associated hazards and controls will show up. You can kind of work through those. They've recently released this to the mobile app, so now your project staff can go and do PSIs on the mobile device. And then permits, right? So we can issue, track, and manage permits. This little image there, the map, we're able to assign zones. We can have it on the public page, the public-facing page. So when people want to see active permits, they can see where they're occurring, when they're happening, and when they'll be done. So really cool. And then project safety inspections, right? So we're able to complete inspections on that mobile device that I was talking about. One of the cool features that we were actually talking about yesterday when we were on the site was you're able to join active inspections. So if I start an inspection and someone comes in at the other side of the project, I can join that inspection and meet back at the site trailing and syncing. So really cool collaboration on the project staff. Site observations, it's essentially just a quick way of identifying hazards or positive actions in a quick manner. So you're one-off, walking around, you see some cores, whatever it is, you take a picture, snap it, and then you log it, right? So that's kind of talking about how we're trying to improve our processes and make it easier for people in the field to utilize this technology, right? And then incident and injuries, right? Pretty, I think we're all familiar with the injuries and incidents. Essentially, we just created those investigation reports in a digital manner, and that's through Hammercheck. All of these have been configured based off of our PCL forms, so people were generally pretty familiar with how it already operated within the processes of the previous system, so that transition wasn't too significant. And then equipment, so you're able to register, authorize, and track equipment. Again, what I really like about the equipment module is you're able to link inspections. You can slap a QR code onto a forklift, or worker can come up, do their pre-use inspection. That's tracked against the equipment itself, and they can start driving it, essentially. You can even put associated licenses required to drive. So you're able to take a look at what you expect out of a license, and then have that associated to the equipment. So pretty cool. Bookings, you're able to prioritize deliveries and meetings, and then bulletins. You're able to share site-specific information through emails through the public page, and I believe they're working on being able to do that through SMS. So bulk actions on notifying individuals when project information changes, or you want to push that out. Again, this was really important for us because we have significant reporting, PCL dashboards. These are your front-facing dashboards. As soon as you log into the system, you have custom dashboards that you can set as a user on what you want to see from Hammercheck, orientation approvals, JHA approvals, or whatever it might be. Daily report, if you have a bunch of stuff that happened on the project site, project manager shows up, or government shows up, and they're like, hey, what happened on the project today? You can summarize a list of the active daily safety information. So that was a really cool feature. Hammercheck Insights, that's their pre-built reporting. If you're like an admin within the system, like when you purchase it, you can customize it. It's probably one of the easiest reporting systems I've experienced. I do development in Power BI. This Hammercheck Insights is significantly easier. So I'm not sure if you guys are trying to create your own reports, but this was one of the easiest methods of doing that. It's really, really cool. OData, like I said, we have a bunch of our own reports, and we need to be able to connect to the information. They have a robust data feed, so we're able to essentially plug and play Hammercheck with our data, and we're able to leverage our historic information, all the inspections we did prior to Hammercheck, and the current inspections we're doing in Hammercheck, because our leadership, that's very important to them. And then open API, so if you're doing integration with any of the systems, they have a public API library where you basically will take a look at what it can and cannot do, so we're able to integrate with other systems, and we are. Okay, implementation success factors. The training strategy. We have monthly champion meetings. I mean, depending on your level of your organization and how big it is, change agents are incredibly important, right? So we identified individuals that would take on the knowledge and the message of Hammercheck and really enforce it within the districts. So we started off with bi-weekly meetings when we started rolling out, and now we do monthly, right? So that will not stop. We'll always do champion meetings from now until the end of the product because we reinforce that information, share insights into Hammercheck, share updates, etc., and keep them well informed, as well as it's a strategy for us to get project information back to corporate, right? Communication plan, how do we inform individuals of Hammercheck's changes, etc., the features, capabilities. and then adoption tracking, right? So how are we ensuring that people are using it? Hammer Tech, we does business reviews. They provided all of that feedback so we can start targeting projects and districts that might be failing. We don't want that to occur, and that's part of that partnership, is that they don't want that to happen either. It's not about just utilizing the product, it's about partnering with them so that we get the best usage out of the technology that we essentially bought. And then governance framework. Again, super important, having leadership involved in this and taking ownership of it. It's a huge decision when we start utilizing or changing any sort of safety technology or the processes within, and then having them a part of it, really drive that leadership buy-in too. Some of the things that we learned and what we do again, pilot with real jobs, not test users. We did a bunch of pilots with test data, and we weren't getting the information that we wanted. People were kind of just doing their own job with the other systems, etc. When we finally sort of changed our approach and started utilizing actual project data, we started getting actual feedback from people on like what we expected, the requirements, etc. Let the safety processes lead the technology decision. We had a robust safety management program where we knew we wanted to keep that. So ensure when you're looking for a technology that is something that drives that, right? Invest in champions, they're your change agents, and then govern early. So like, again, have leadership involved, not after issues show up, right? That's the end of me. I'm gonna go to core fix, and then at the end we'll go through some questions.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roy Taylor, the Health and Safety Manager with Lundy. Be about 7.5 years now. I've been running the Lundy Health and Safety Department almost 16, 17 years in the Health and Safety Department up and down in this Ottawa area, Eastern Ontario. One big thing that we always saw when we asked the question is the why, right? Why is the transition of paper to digital so important? One thing that I can attest to is that was essentially my desk because I finished at UC. So pre-digital era, you're looking at those stacks of papers, you're running between the different various job sites at any given time. You can have 10, 12, 13, 14 different style jobs. And here I am personally running to each job, collecting all the weekly, daily documentations from these project teams, scanning them in physically, and then manually entering them into whatever necessary folder is actually required. So transition into the digital kind of obviously simplifies the actual document storage kind of avenue, which is so critical in the health and safety department, right? So knock on wood, if anything ever were to kind of occur, you're able to track and manage and find what you're looking for pretty quickly here. We were looking into obviously something that kind of centralized, right, I guess all those multiple projects, as I just said, so it's not just me running out, collecting physically these documents, it's just coming into a digital stream and getting that real-time visibility. And later into my presentation, I'll kind of do a bit of a demonstration to kind of show you what the real world looks like through the core fix lens as it stands today. And then just again, to handle with what we require within Lundy, but the olive branch to all of our sub-trades that are coming to our projects. Now, Lundy is a smaller company than what PCL is. We are just strictly local to the Ottawa area. So some of our sub-trades, it could just be a 2-person painting crew, right? That does not necessarily have a full health and safety program. So for us to implement something full and extreme with our core health and safety policy and our in-depth safety management system, we want to make sure that the quote-unquote mom and pop shop can still work and kind of work in compliance with what we are asking of them. So again, through that operational impact, right, kind of hit on it a couple times, but it's that less time chasing paperwork. And in hindsight, it's the streamline of making sure that it's unified paperwork, all right? Unified documentation. If my supervisor A delivers an orientation in this type of fashion, and my supervisor B delivers an orientation in a different fashion, well, we're not getting the same messaging across to all of our different trades and our workers through our different realms and different projects. It's the QA/QC aspect of making sure that the JAJs, FLAs, again, all the different abbreviations, safety talks, all these different types of pre-use equipment inspections, they're streamlined, they're the exact same. It's not company A, company B. We can amalgamate, making sure it's all rolling down the same style of practice. I'll show you the real-time visibility, like I said, into the project and how it actually kind of viewed, but for us with the data track, similar to what Tyler was saying with the dashboarding, reporting is so key, right? It's something that I look for in the background from the safety management side, It's just making sure that we have that real-time visibility from each trade, from each individual, for each project, and it is streamlined. Again, aligning with our core accredited safety management system. Okay? Managing the compliance across all trades, so not just internally. Kind of hit on that with the mom and pop shop. So if we are, again, we're in our full cycle right now for core, so we've maintained core for the first 3. We're entering into the full cycle here again. When the core audit occurs, right, it's the streamlined system. It's the streamlined process. It's the policy, it's the procedure, it's the evidence, it's everything you can gather to show the external auditor that, yes, everything that's happening on construction site A is the exact same that's happening on construction site Z. And the, what does that keep jumping forward? You put a timer on mine, you're just trying to speed me up here. Confidence in the audit reviews. So one thing that we really look for, again, when we were kind of deciding we're going core, we're going ISO, we're even thinking of going through an occupational health safety management system process, we wanted to make sure that we had the confidence and the right evidence, the right tools to kind of actually implement this program. So going digital, again, it helps with that confidence aspect that, again, everything is similar, everything is streamlined, and then it helps us just actually maintain that occupational health and safety management system. So when we did our vetting process, we're about 3 years now into the digital world. Our very first year of going through core, it was a decision that we made to kind of stick with the paper. All right, let's just test out the paper, let's just get this ball rolling, and then we'll transition it into a digital system. The paper was hectic. Okay, with that first picture I had on that first slide, that was my desk as I'm getting everything ready to get ready for the external auditor, the evidence, the internal audit that I'm having to do. I'm kind of there scratching my head going, make sure I do not drop this coffee on this piece of paper because how the heck is this thing going to actually scan through, right? So the first test guinea pig, we achieved it, we maintained it, but it was a lot of work. It took me a lot of time to kind of rifle through all these different binders, all the different field notes, the folders. So then we implemented the digital strategy. So when we went through it, these were just some high-level items that we were keen on when we went through the procurement process. And we evaluated 5 different digital softwares. Again, I'll keep their names just out of respect in case there's anybody inside of here. Well, high-level items. So the desktop and mobile app capabilities, right? As the manager in the background, I want to be able to use my computer. Okay, I want to be able to see what the real-time data is from the crews, the teams that are out on the projects, how they're implementing it. And then the mobile capabilities, right? Everybody has a smartphone these days, some of us have multiple, but having the ability to essentially access all the different forms and requirements that we had instilled, is that mobile app capability aligned with the actual desktop view of it? Ease of use, don't let this suit fool you. I'm a country boy, I live out with my neighbors being coyotes and deers, okay? So if it was easy for me to kind of figure out, I could help with that rollout process. So you might have the most technologically advanced person to the very non-technological advanced person, and we wanted to make sure that ease of use with whatever system we were implementing could cross-stream within our team, okay? Customizable aspects, again, I like to manipulate forms, I like to put my own little niche on them, I like to customize the way of my brain, kind of thinking towards whatever type of inspection is required. So I wanted to be able to make sure that I can do that in the background. If I get a call from a supervisor going, hey, we need a new inspection form because this type of scenario just showed up, and I can be able to kind of quickly execute this, okay, without having to go externally. The worker information, similar to what Tyler was showing with the card, we wanted a zone where we can track our team and our emergency contacts with their worker certification on one quick visible scenario. Knock on wood, if something ever were to occur, I know that I can call my employee A's spouse or whomever it may be as an emergency contact. It's right there, I have it ready to go digitally. And then flip the script if that individual's out on the job site and they're being asked to present their work out Heights card or whatever it may be. Well, it's just right there, it's at the ease of convenience with on their phone. Okay? The customer support angle, again, it's just so critical. When you're introducing a new type of technology, and in our scenario, this was just a whole brand new streamlined system, the customer support was critical because I'm going to be on the phone, I'm going to be lighting you up going, hey, I'm trying to make this new form, or I'm trying to upload this new project. It's not working. Oh, it's just that quick click of a button. Perfect, okay? So having that customer support was critical. The financial structure, again, different style level companies when you have a cross-national company or maybe just a more local company. It has to fit. It has to fit with your financial structure. So this was something that obviously was greatly invested into us. And then the cross-platform integration. If we selected, well, you know, apples out of the bag. If we select CoreFix, is there a cross-platform integration? Okay, are we able to gather somebody who may use Salus, SiteDocs, HammerTech, Procore, whatever it may be, e-compliance? Are they able to integrate and actually utilize with what we require? Okay. So to that avenue, yes, CoreFix was what we selected. Okay, just because they checked all those boxes off to what we required internally with Lundy. Now we use Procore as our main construction system software. Procore had a bit of a health and safety component to it, but again, with the digital aspect of all these forms creations, this is why we kind of went down the CoreFix avenue. So it does work across multiple companies, and just not our own internal teams. So with that scenario, we're able to kind of create all these different scenarios, these groups, these different roles. We're able to assign the different capabilities through CoreFix. So with myself and my safety team as administrators in the background, we have the full permissions, but then we can start shrinking those permissions down to our supers and our workers and so on and so forth, just to limit the access or accidental errors if they're in there and they accidentally kind of delete a form or delete something along those lines. So that really fit with what we were looking at. The sub-trades, again, they can submit directly into our system, and I'm going to show a little quick show and tell with that in a little bit here. Whether you're a CoreFix user or not, so again, if you are a different type, maybe you're a Salus or a HammerTech, let's stay with HammerTech, you're able to upload your HammerTech JHA, so you don't have to necessarily fill out JHAs twice, okay? Again, we use it with us, our sub-trade coordinations, the orientations, the hazard, job hazard analysis, safe docs, code inspections. The orientations is the biggest one, again, sounding a little bit like an echo with Tyler, but being able to create an orientation digitally now. And our new market in Ottawa, it's not just English and French anymore. You have cross-platform languages, if it's Spanish or Cantonese or so on and so forth that are coming through. So through the CoreFix lens, I'm able to create a digital orientation, which is essentially a video of me. So if you guys want to keep listening to me talk, I encourage you to go to YouTube. What do they say? Click and subscribe. I think I've got 3 subscribers, myself, my daughter, and my wife. So we're almost there. We're on our way to platinum right now. But with that being said, you can, through the YouTube lens and our videos, it can pull subtitles up into that respective different language. So you might hear me speaking in English, but you can prompt that video to actually kind of talk Spanish, even though it's me. Okay? So it helps with the new integration of what this Ottawa market is kind of becoming now. And then again, the price is right for our needs. Bonus, they're local to Ottawa. Sean Watts, one of the owners of CoreFix, I knew Sean when he was a rebar worker on one of my job sites. So quite a bit of the CoreFix team, you know, I've had the pleasure of having on some of our Lundy sites or in my past world when I was working for a safety consulting company up and down here. I saw a lot of these guys. I know a lot of these guys in this team. So I've got a lot of respect, especially with Sean kind of getting this thing up and running. So the fact that they're local was a big bonus to our Lundy views as well. And that kind of just helped push it over the finish line. The onboard process was really just streamlined, and it was fantastic. Within our customer success manager, so when we got signed up with CoreFix, there was a transition from the sales team to our customer support team. And now I work with that individual, Will, quite often in the background. So just kind of get things started off, you know, it was just kind of the raw data. What projects, what workers, what forms are we wanting to see? Here's my old paper templates. Can you start off and get these converted to digital? And then I can start manipulating them from here. So Will and I in the background really started executing, okay, we call it the first phase of this onboard. And then it parlayed into the finite details. So here we're assigning our form version trackings, we're assigning what worker groups are going to project A, and then kind of slow roll out to our team with the actual the rollout process. So we created an internal training module where again it's a little bit of me speaking with a little bit of just kind of documentation to help our team to say, here's what I need you guys to do through the mobile app. You guys are going to get one-time key, get it logged in, start creating passwords, start getting your worker profile kind of built out. And then from there, we started rolling out the different styles of forms. Here's how we're going to start executing the forms. Here are the permissions of the forms. And again, customizable. So we were able to kind of slow roll it, but in a controlled, managed fashion. Where if there were any questions popping up from some of our operations teams or anybody, our administrative teams, we were able to just kind of execute the answer pretty quickly. So it was this nice slow roll process. And then if I didn't have the answer, again, I was able to lean back to Will, and he was able to provide me with stuff pretty quick. What we see in practice, we're seeing upwards of 1,500 forms every couple of weeks, okay, that are kind of integrating through our system. Again, within Lundy's umbrella, we're mostly construction management. I think we have 4 or 5 laborers currently within the company right now. So we're really just a team of like project managers, supervisors, project coordinators, administrative staff, serving mostly as a construction management kind of team. So about 80 to 80% of our forms coming through are from our subtrades, okay? There are cross platforms, again, as I hit on. There's a lot of existing CoreFix users in the Ottawa area here now, and having them all streamed through the one project filter lens, and I'm gonna show a little lens into that here in a quick sec. It just made the administrative side in the background with me, just simple and seamless on how we are doing our bit of our QA, QC. And then just having that single pane of glass to see the immediate real-time data of what's actually happening on project A to project Z, was just critical for the day-to-day operations. I'm going to stop this slide for a quick sec, and I'm going to open up my CoreFix, which I've kind of pre-programmed here. So I'm hoping I'm going to do this right and not completely kibosh this, Tyler. Move. Okay, like that. All right, so this is your real-time dashboard as it stands for today. You're able to see the active projects we have. We currently have 11, the headcount with our internal staff working on some of these projects, and then what forms have actually come through. Again, a big component for myself, again, is the management side in the background. I wanted a good dashboard where I can see the real-time data of what comes through on the day-to-day. This dashboard is 100% customizable. So it can fit your specific needs as you come inside and you're able to start actioning, all right, and add and edit and manipulate whatever type of raw data that you are looking for. So again, training certificates, form counts, incomplete forms. If we've assigned a specific task to an individual, it can all be tracked and managed through this actual eyebrow lens. But we start coming into the forms, like I said, when it comes into the templates, I like to customize, I like to dabble. You might see a lot of draft in for review. This is me kind of manipulating in the background. But if we are creating, let's just pull up one of our orientation videos here, or orientation forms. As you go and you start creating the actual form, you get to see what the worker actually gets to see as well. So if they were to scan the QR code, if you click the mobile view, just to make sure that all the ducts are aligning, everything is looking as it does on the actual main builder part portion, aligns with what we actually see from the mobile app kind of component. Great drop-down features, so if you are just a visitor or guest, if for example, if you're coming to one of our sites, our supervisor may just give you just a quick emergency breakdown if you're clicking on that. But if you're the worker, then you can create it here. So where it pops down and it's going to pull you into that link, which will then mandate you to kind of look into watching the video, understanding the systematic flow of kind of what we require through the lens of Lundy. Okay. Again, with the all forms compete feature. So a great filtering feature where you can kind of break it down to what exact form you want to see. What exact project you want to look at. All right, maybe I'm filtering down and I want to see what one of our project coordinators, Michelle, is doing. I can just strictly go to her and I can see what she's looking at. Michelle's in the stand too. Okay, so I can specifically see what Michelle punched out for the day. And then again, as the forms start to flow in and flow through, you see the pending review. What we have mandated internally with us is our supers, when these JJs come in, they've got to mark them reviewed. So if this is starting to lag and we kind of push it at about a 9 o'clock time, this is when all the JJs should be in through our procedural steps. Guys are coming in, you're starting to work, right? You want to make sure that the JHAs, PSIs, FLAs, they're all done first thing in the morning, as they should be. You can come in here, mark and review, check them off, and then we kind of move on from there. There is a feature with the core audit. So Audit Soft, which is our mandate with all of our Core 2020 audits, there is a tie-in feature with CoreFix and Audit Soft. So whatever JHAs, safety talks, worker inspections, so on and so forth, there's a quick
link that allows AuditSoft to grab from Corefix. I don't know if I said that right. But it's able to integrate, okay, with whatever forms you kind of designated. So you are able to use it for your core audits. Again, in the resourcing, everything from the projects workers, or like I said, our trade certificates and the binder feature. Binder feature is just our digital streamline of saving and storing all of our documents now. So anything from our company safety policy, our site-specific safety plan, our monthly reviews of all of our high-level project job hazard analysis, you have the quick ease of the digital feature here. And again, parlaying back to the worker, maybe you want to use the right to know what type of information. Well, hey, it's all on their phone. Okay, so if they want to see what the DSR says about this one product that they're looking at on the wall and they're not too sure, right, that worker has the ability to go on their phone through the app, check it out, and then it'll cross-reference itself right there. Okay, and then the asset feature again, assets, what type of tools and equipment do we have? How are we being tracked again through the preventative maintenance lens of things? Where are they assigned to? Do they have that specific project? Who's the manager in charge? So again, the asset tool feature, it's great. You can generate QR codes for all of your forms, both internally and external users. So the internal users are, we'll call it Lundy users for this case. An external user might be Jason and his team when they're coming to the project, all right? And they're going to scan their JHA, they're going to scan their orientation. Be a different QR code, but it'll still prompt the actual same form. You can have that set up with all of your assets features and how it ties in. So if we have a telescopic forklift, ABC, you can put that QR code right inside of that forklift. The individual can go, scan it, it ties into the asset, and it ties into the inspection form. So everything is all centralized. So when my friends from the Ministry of Labor show up and they say, hey, I want to see what your inspection is, boom, got it all tied to the asset. Here it is, here's our preventative maintenance, here was the annual, here's our daily operating manual, load charts, so on and so forth, okay? Again, for myself, the one last thing I'll kind of quickly show is just the reporting feature. You can customize these as I have for all of our different projects, so NWO, new work orientation. One thing we obviously want to be sure of is that, hey, if we're having Joe Smith, Jane Doe, they're coming to our job site, we see like they did the orientation, but they fill it out right. How many workers, and here's where my safety side will come in, I can go on YouTube, I can see that I have 100 videos or 100 views on this new work orientation for Arch. But if I come in through this report feature and I see 200 and I filled out a form, something's wrong here. So then you can kind of start doing a little bit of QA, QC in the background and kind of manipulate whatever type of conversation, discussion points are needed there. So fully customizable reports gives you a quick real-time lens view in there. And then you can extract it into a PDF Excel form if you need to present it up to any type of executive management team. Yeah. Put that back up. So again, just general advice, just don't evaluate the features, evaluate the adoption, because again, if your people won't use it, it just really doesn't matter what feature it has, right? If your subtrades won't use it, it won't solve your problem. And think about how the documentation flows between the companies, not just within the one. And the right tool should reduce the coordination effort, not add to it. Okay. That's it from my side. Again, we'll just kind of say, I think from Tyler and I, thank you for the opportunity to come and just kind of give some quick hitters on both HammerTech and Corefix. We acknowledge that there's quite a bit of new software companies out there, quite a bit of general software companies out there. We've selected the two that we have kind of onboarded within our firms, but just want to give a recognition to the fact that there are quite other, many more out there. So select the one that fits your needs, your price point, your requirements within your own firm. A lot of respect for Corefix, a lot of respect for the HammerTech team and Tyler and his team. I guess we'll kind of open it up to any questions if there are any, and then maybe more so HammerTech Corefix, we'll kind of just pass the mic around and go from there.
What, Jay? So, a couple of things. You talked about the sub-trade integration.
Yep.
And so, sub-trade might have their own software package that they're using
Yep.
and integrates well. What if they're still old school paperwork? How are you collecting and entering that? And also on the sub-trade front, you talked about the availability, and both, mentioned about having, the SDSs in the system and stuff like that. What if I'm a sub-trade worker who's not using either of those systems? Is that information still available to me somehow?
Yeah, so I mean, for ours, yes, you can create a QR code that'll tie into the safety data sheet binder that anybody can be able to access via smartphone. You do not need the software. The software is definitely a convenience factor of just simply going onto the app and then scrolling down. But you do have the ability to, if we post a QR code, safety data sheets, you can scan that, and then you can just kind of start micro-filtering from there. As it goes to your paper forms, so again, this is what we do. I'll let Tyler take it also. 2 avenues when you're filling out your JHA. One is fill out Lundy, and then there's my pre-populated form, identify your tasks, your risks, your controls, or submit other. Okay, the submit other feature ties into 2 options. One, if you, again, I'll just use Salus Site Docs E-Compliance HammerTech. If you're one of those users, not a CoreFix user, you have the ability to download that form to your mobile device and then just simply re-upload it by scanning the QR code. You got a section to re-upload. And if you're a paper, there's some big firms out there that we have. They still like the paper with the pink sheets. Take the times, that's what we're here for. I don't see them in the stands. But with that being said, you have the ability to take a picture. And you can upload the picture of your form. And then again, our supervisor, along with our safety team in the background, will kind of QA/QC it. Yep. So if you're just saying, working off a ladder, risk of cutting, dust and eyes, no. So we'll circle back and we'll go back to that individual or that trade and say, this needs to be improved, and if not, then you are required now to just use ours.
Is it the same then for Hammer?
We'll just. It's similar. Joel kind of discussed the paper approach. It can be difficult working with individuals that don't want to go away from paper. In most of our modules, it's you can take a picture or upload a specific field called trade upload, which is basically they can upload any sort of documentation that doesn't fit ours, but we still have that approval process. Right, so they upload theirs, we can take a look at it, give their forms, but they still don't meet our standards, reject, or they meet their standards, great, get record of it digitally, and we can continue, right? But it's always about the paper for sure. SDSs, there's a public page that you can go to, you can see PPE requirements for the project, SDS information, a bunch of other stuff, permits, active permits.
Thank you for the question.
Good question.
Yes.
For crews that works on site that poor internet connectivity, will CoreFix work offline?
It's a good question. I've never experienced it. I have, when you have your cellular data or you have your ability to connect to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
What we will do internally, if the individual is having a poor connectivity, or maybe they don't have a smartphone, we still see that. Some people have the old flip phone, right? So they'll, hey, I just physically can't do this. No problem. Here's our tablet. We'll help you fill it out, but you got to come to the office first thing in the morning, and we'll have you do it that way. That kind of answer that question. With the poor connectivity, the offline question, I don't have that right answer for you right now. Maybe I'll encourage you to head over to the CoreFix booth over
If
there.
it's support offline, does it sync back to the?
Yes. I've never had a scenario where there's a form that we've filled out, we'll call it with poor connectivity, that was not able to show up in my dashboard.
Nice.
Yeah. So maybe that just answers your question. Same thing?
With any web-based technology, you'll need internet to sync information. With the offline capability of mobile devices with HammerTech, you'll be connected, but you open up the form. It basically saves an instance of that form offline. You can go to the project, do inspection, PSIs, etc. And then when you come back, you'll have to sync it, right?
Do you sync it manually or will it automatically sync it?
I think it's manually. I believe it's manually.
Yeah.
Because it's basically saving it.
Sure.
Or maybe it's automatic. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done it.
Have you got any, do you have any good use cases for the API integrations?
Absolutely. Our reporting, right? So, and other integrations with our other systems. HammerTech has a sign-in, sign-out app, as an example. So when you're a driver, you can scan a QR code and say I'm on site. PCL has an internal application for that. An example of the API is instead of using their sign-in app, we're using our sign-in app. right? It's also a turnstile security application, so when people step on the site, you can see if they're certified. If I create a worker profile in Hammerjack with my licenses, in the product that we've created, we can confirm that they have that information and essentially allow them on site, right? So there's some examples of some of that integration. We've integrated with our internal CRM, we've integrated with our internal project management tool, and we're continuing to improve on some of the integrations that we currently have. Yeah, but yeah, mind you, you can reach out to me and I can provide you actual more detailed use cases. That's right.
With AI becoming more accessible, and furthermore to that, with AI becoming more and more prevalent in the construction industry, are you guys using that as a tool at all? And if so, how?
I can start.
Go for it.
Okay. So Hammercheck has recently rolled out, or starting to roll out 4 AI features. One with observations. If you take a picture, it'll identify the hazard. It'll provide a comment on what the hazard is with a corrective action. There's a PSI. If you record your pre-task plan, it'll basically translate that to, if it's an individual speaking Spanish, it'll translate to English, and create a PSI, FLRA, as it were. The SDS module, as I said, have AI capabilities. Instead of entering in all of the SDS information, you basically just give it a form. It'll take all that information, it'll create the detailed information for the subtrade. And then the last one is the daily summary. So in the daily summary, as I mentioned, if a project manager or whoever wants to know what happened on the project site that day, you can ask it to generate a summary of the information for that day, essentially. They've just started rolling this out. I can't give too much details because I'm still working on a bit of the pricing plan with the AI. And we're also taking a look at piloting the AI, but again, that kind of talks to some of the partnerships we wanted for them to innovate. So more to come, not too much more than that.
On Corefix side, not quite yet. They're fairly new. It might be, I think 2021-ish, in that ballpark is when they've kind of created their company and kind of really got things going. So, respectively, they're just maybe still just kind of working through the main portion. They have a small little AI feature where it's just that standard chatbot kind of that you see on every website now. But I keep feeding my guy Will with, hey, I would like this to see, I'd like this implemented in Corefix. So AI was something that I had brought through, and we'll see what the future is with Corefix. But no doubt, this team has grown, so not yet on the Corefix side. Sure. Hold on, Jay. Yeah.
I've got a quick question about subcontractor management.
Sure.
There's 1,000 different names for PSIs,
Yes.
FLRAs, AHAs, and I've noticed that there's 1,000 different ways to complete one as well. There's a lot of different strategies for it. Some don't have a pre and post control risk rating. How do you standardize those criteria for a good enough for a subcontractor? How do you identify, okay, they maybe don't measure up to our standard, but they measure up to some set level of good enough for PCL and Lundy?
So simple answer is, if I were to bring in that subtrade and you're saying that our form or our standard when it comes to the hazard evaluation process, our core policy and the core mandate, our core 2020 mandate requires you to evaluate the risk before and after controls. So if you are signing your CCA1 and you're coming to work on a Lundy construction project, you confirmed and acknowledge that you're going to work in compliance with our health and safety policy. Element 2 speaks to this, talking about the review and the evaluation of risk pre and post. We have a set rating, so if we are exceeding, let's say, a 16 post control, we will engage with that individual and be, are you sure that you evaluate the hierarchy of controls properly? Are you sure that you maybe are just not understanding it? And we'll just help kind of coach and educate. But in line with what our policy requires, you are required to evaluate pre and post. So our form sets that. If we're using, like I said, maybe a paper trail form that it doesn't necessarily have that, then again, we encourage, we will ask that trail team. Yeah.
We've standardized our FLRA form within the system. So if you're using the system using a standard form. We also audit 20 to 30% of our PSIs to ensure they're in compliance with what we expect. Right? You can embed the audit within the system. So quite literally, they'll submit a PSI. You can either approve or reject or just leave it as is. So we have that within the system to ensure that they meet our standards and then provide the coaching to the individual.
Sorry, was that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
So this is more of a question about specific feature. Having seen a lot of software packages that are out there, and I don't think I've seen one yet that absolutely nails this, but maybe things have changed. Is there a nag feature in that if you have a supervisor who has not submitted their daily paperwork by 9 a.m., do they get told, you better be sick or dead because we haven't had your paperwork yet today?
So I hope they're sick. But yeah, so a feature that we don't necessarily, we didn't purchase this with CoreFix, but it's the time in, time out feature with CoreFix. So what I know of that feature and what we can do with our task feature, but let's just back forward. If you have the sign-in feature, so you are signing in, you're clocking in at 6:30 in the morning, you've entered that through the timesheet feature. It'll automatically prompt to, did you fill out your JHA? Did you do X, Y, Z? It'll automatically prompt and it stays read in the system. I know internally with us, if it's myself or my administrative coordinator, we QAQC this every morning, and again, we have our time set of 9, all right? Our 9 o'clock is our benchmark. If we don't see items come in by 9, then we start poking and prodding a little bit. But you can assign tasks, and those tasks are assigned to a form, and it'll show incomplete or not complete, and it shows big red. So it's, and I know with the time in out feature, it won't let you time out unless you've completed the JHA. We use a different time feature through Procore to kind of track and manage our time with the individuals. So we don't have that feature. We do it internally, and it's working internally. Maybe a bigger scale company, like I said, we're small enough that we can kind of manage that, but bigger scale company, the time in and out feature, I know works great. I've had one individual on one site that showed it to me just recently after a post-incident visit.
Very similar, except they do have a remind button in HammerCheck that you ping that reminds them based on tasks, not for every sort of document. So a lot of it is like KPIs, reporting. We have a lot of information that shows if it's overdue, and then we're able to just message the individual, but they do have a remind button that you can keep hitting.
That's when Tyler's having a slow day. He just wants to poke at his guys.
I just see a lot of, like, especially sub-trades, where the foreman is a working foreman, and gets in, gets the crew started, and jumps on the tools, and they need that little reminder, hey, you forgot to submit your JHA or whatever you're gonna call it. And you forgot to submit it today.
And that's just nature of good communication, good due diligence. Onboarding the right trades, I think, also has a big part of that. But you're not wrong.
Can I add to that?
Yep.
Comment there. So you can, if you have a good project management program and a good API system with your safety program to tie into production paperwork, then that will solve your problem. Okay. So if you have subcontractors that are submitting bills, they will prompt on your other submittals for your company as well. And your system is actively triggers and get sorted out that way.
Any other questions? I know we're right on time here. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I know Tyler flew in from Edmonton, so a special round for Tyler for flying all the way here.
Thanks, guys. So on behalf of the OCA, our event sponsors, Solway, Wright LLP, and Beacon Light, just a little gift of appreciation. So thank you guys for being today. Thank you. Now we go.
My name
No, thank you.